How's it going, everybody? We are back for yet again another episode of the Double Tech Podcast. We are your hosts, Ethan and Trent. I am Ethan. That is Trent, or I guess that is Trent if you're watching the video. And we're here today on a Saturday watching some afternoon baseball, watching some early Premier League soccer. Who knows what you're doing? Maybe you're working right now. Regardless of where you're at, we're glad you're here. Trent, how we doing today, fella?
So good. May the 4th be with you all as we record on May the 4th, Star Wars Day. I love Star Wars. Usually it's kind of fun when this day's on like a work day so I can wear my Han Solo shirt to work and look like a total dork. I don't really care. I love May the 4th. It's also Kentucky Derby Day, Ethan. It's a big day in general.
It is. And I think I'm a little disappointed that I knew it was Derby Day and not Star Wars Day. And now that you're telling me that, listen, Trent, I am as big of a Star Wars fan as the next guy. I love Star Wars, but I'm not going to lie to you. I did not know. I didn't realize it. I didn't realize today was May 4th, and I'm terrible with dates. And this morning, my girlfriend even sent me, because she woke up and went to work today, she sent me a text that said, "May the Force be with you." And I didn't even realize that she sent that for May 4th. So I was just like, "Are you watching Star Wars at work right now? Like, what's going on?" Now I feel like an idiot. And that makes sense. I'm glad you did that. And that's, you know what? Iron sharpens iron, Trent. That's why we're here. That's why we do this.
Hey, well, also, I mean, shout out to Katie for actually knowing and being in the know. She's a real one for that.
Yeah,
she's just trying to let you know.
I'm sure somebody told her. Ain't no way she just knew that. Katie, if you're listening, I love you. Anyways, yeah, so I guess it is May the 4th day. Trent, that Florida lifestyle, we're getting to the heat of the summer. Are things starting to really become torturous conditions there, or
that's the funny thing. It's like when I first moved here in October, late October, that's what everyone was telling me. They're like, "Oh, it's cold right now." And it's like 65 degrees. I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean it's cold?" But they're like, "Just wait till that first summer." And I'll be honest, man, I am starting to get to that point where it's like, you got to leave the windows down in the car when you park it, because I got a black interior. I mean, you can't leave anything in your car. You can't leave drinks in there. You can't leave food in there because it'll just melt. I mean, it is
absolutely.
I'm not complaining though. It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember how bad those summers can be when it just gets super humid. We haven't breached that yet over here in Omaha. We haven't gotten to those like humid, hot weathers yet. Let me tell you something weather-wise. We had a tornado last week. I don't know if you heard about that, but it made national news. There was tornadoes in Omaha, Nebraska, and they were actually really bad. Like they were up there, and they like tore through a large part of western Omaha and northern Omaha, and did some serious damage. Like there's some relief cause funds out there too. But it was crazy being a part of that, because like Trent, we grew up in Michigan where it was like we always went and had those tornado drills at school, and we like knew a watch and a warning, like what the difference was. And then here they were like, "Oh yeah, like there's going to be this big storm." And this is Friday. So like we're at school, and they're like, "Yeah, like right around 3:00, right at the end of school, there's going to be this big storm." So I'm like, "Okay, whatever." And then sure enough, like right when the bell rings, like kids start to go. Like 10 minutes later, they start pulling kids back in the school. And they're like, "There's a tornado like right now about 15 minutes west of us. Like we're bringing every kid back." And so I ended up having my students in my room until like 5:15. And
dude, that's
so we
wild.
turned on the news. And it was just like this live footage, like this older man. And he was just like flipping to cameras around the city. And dude, it was wild. Like seeing like some of these like tornadoes come to the ground, because I've never seen one like that. And then I encourage you, look up some of the footage like of the actual tornadoes touching the ground. It's crazy.
I will. I'll look that up. First of all, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad everyone's okay. I did not hear about this, but I'm sure I will, throughout the weekend as the weekend goes on. But dude, I'm glad everybody's okay. And shout out to all the good people that are going to do the good thing and help with the relief efforts and stuff. I'll tell you, I hear a lot about like hurricanes down here because I'm in like hurricane central. So hurricane season is about to start, and that's kind of freaky, but just natural disasters, I guess. That's nature. That's Earth.
Yeah, exactly. So that, I mean, that's the weather piece over here. Otherwise, like it's been kind of rainy. You know, it hasn't been anything wild. Um,
Yeah.
so moving on though, if you are watching on the YouTube channel, you might notice that it looks like I have a slight ailment to one of my eyes. And no, I'm not wearing eyeliner. I actually got elbowed in the eye during a men's basketball league game a couple weeks back. Still hasn't fully healed yet. But Trent, let me tell you something. We're in round 2 of the playoffs. We barely made it through last week. We got our next playoff game this Wednesday, and we're on the come up. Let me tell you something. We're a gritty team. We're a gritty team. We like to hustle for loose balls, and sometimes we get elbowed in the face. So that happens. But this just seems
That
like
doesn't
it's more.
surprise me in the slightest that you are part of a gritty, scrappy team that fights for everything because that is your brand. I'm glad to see that you've got a wound. Every now and then, it's kind of fun to have a battle wound or a battle
Gotta
scar.
have a battle scar. Yep.
Look, it creates a story. People look at that guy. They're like, hey, what happened? Well, let me tell you, as a matter of fact, we're in the second round of the playoffs. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because so the reason why I'm in this league is because my coworker, who's also like another 8th grade math teacher, he runs the league. So he asked me to play, and we were playing his team. This was the last game of the regular season. We were playing his team, and somebody on his team was the one that elbowed me in the eye. But I told all of the students that Mr. Burchard punched me in the face, and so they were all like, "What? What did, what did you fight back?" And I'm like, no, I'm above that. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
we're too
saying?
good for that. We're too good for
Yeah,
that.
I'm above that,
Morals.
exactly. I took the high road like you guys all should, you know. But
Yes.
man, speaking of basketball, we've had a lot of basketball. We kind of been on this like 2-week podcast schedule here, which I'm fine with because there's not a lot of sports on right now. So, week to week, it's hard to find things. I've been trying to reach out, get some guests on the podcast. Um, Kind of hard to do that when you don't really have connections, but sure enough, we have had a lot of NBA playoffs. And Trent, we should talk about them, should we not?
Yeah, of course. There's been drama.
Yeah, there's been some serious drama, and we will get into it. But so how I wanted to do this, I kind of just wanted to go through every single series and kind of talk about your reaction, maybe talk about something you saw that was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Something where you're like, these guys need to get this handled before the next round, or what. So first, let's start with the one that seemingly ended the quickest, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, a nightmare situation for Phoenix right now. Because if you remember, it was only a year and a half ago where they went all in to trade for KD. Then they went on their little run with him. And then they tried to double down by getting rid of Chris Paul, bringing in Bradley Beal, creating this new big three. They put all their eggs in that basket, quite literally. I can't break down the cap situation because I'm not that smart. I'll just be honest with you. But essentially, I mean, if you believe what you read, they are tied to this group for like the next 3 years. There's no way out. They don't have any money to spend. They can't bring anyone else in. It's a disaster. So for the Timberwolves to go out there and sweep them out of the playoffs, tough to be a Suns fan right now, but also you got to give congratulations to the T-Wolves. I am fired up for that series against the Nuggets that starts tonight. That's going to be good. And Edwards taking the torch from KD. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. The Timberwolves thoroughly shocked me with how good they played. And I knew they were the better team after like 2 games in, but with a team like Minnesota, you just on their history, you would expect them to have one off night and just drop one of them. I was kind of expecting like 4-1, something like Denver, LA. But to sweep a team with Booker, Durant, and Bradley Beal is pretty insane. And I'm kind of buying the stock on this Timberwolves squad. They have thoroughly shocked me. I'm in on Edwards. I love how Karl Anthony Towns is more of a complimentary player now.
Yeah.
And Rudy Gobert, I'm excited for Gobert and Jokic to go at it low key. I'm very excited for that. On the other side of things, I feel like we say this every episode, but I have no idea why teams like bought into this idea that if you just compile as many superstars as possible, somebody's gonna have a good night. But that is just not it's just not the way that the game is right now. And frankly, I don't think it ever was. I don't think the game ever went in that direction. I mean, LeBron, D Wade, and Bosh kind of like started the whole superstar team up thing, and they won a couple. But they had LeBron. LeBron's arguably 1A, 1B best player of all time. But these teams that are just compiling prolific scorers, it just doesn't work. And you see that again with the Clippers last night.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunate loss for the Clippers. My good buddy here in Omaha is a Clippers fan. Shout out Philly. But like, it's just not going to work, and something needs to change. And the fact that coaching seems like it's just taking a back seat in the NBA these days is tough. It's extremely tough. And sooner or later, teams are going to figure out that this is not the way to do things anymore. And I'm excited for where the NBA is moving towards. I'll say that.
Well, so I doubled down on everything you said, but I don't know if you heard what Chuck Barkley said when he was like, look, let's just call a spade a spade. All you members of the media who don't want to do your job, who want to just, you want people to like you, you're trying to say it was, Frank Vogel's fault with the Suns. Darvin Ham, the Lakers fired him yesterday after 2 seasons. He's like, those teams sucked and got swept out or lost in 5 because of the players, not the coach. Those are good coaches. They have proven track records. Darvin Ham, not as much, but Frank Vogel has won championships. I mean, he's a good coach. So to sit here and just kind of use the coach as the scapegoat year in, year out, when really, like you said, Ethan, what you're really doing is compiling stars, putting them all in like a jumbo, just putting them in a pot together and mix it up and hoping that works. It doesn't work like that. I mean, even before the Heat with Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron, the big 3 Celtics that everyone talks about from like the Kobe era, they had KG, they had Paul Pierce, they had Ray Allen. You know who else they had? Kendrick Perkins was rock solid. Tony Allen was a lockdown defender. Rajon Rondo, for crying out loud, was the point guard. That was a full, complete team. Even though it was technically a big 3, they had a real rotation. And that's what the Suns and the Clippers don't have, if you want to move into the Clippers series. But I agree with you. I like the way things are moving.
And that's the thing. Like when you look back at those Celtics team, everybody had a role. Like it wasn't when you look at the Suns, KD's the top 3 scorer of all time. Devin Booker is averaging 28 this season. Bradley Beal came off averaging like 30 last season. You can't, like, these are all guys who were the first option on their team. And now you're putting them together and expecting them to just divvy up the responsibility. And it doesn't work like that. It really does.
It's like you said. It's like what's the game plan for the Suns? Let's just get the ball to KD. Oh, that's not working. Okay, let's just get the ball to Devin Booker. Oh, that's not working. Let's just get it to Bradley. There's no cohesiveness, no cohesion, whatever you want to call it. There's no chemistry. And so I'm actually glad. I'm kind of glad the pendulum has swung this far in this direction, because it's going to force teams like our Timberwolves and the Thunder that are homegrown with young talent. They drafted these guys. It's bringing that style back. I think it's a good thing.
And just one more thing with that. I don't know if you heard KD kind of talking about the past year, but he said he like almost never felt comfortable. He almost never felt comfortable this year, which is a problem. And even Bradley Beal, like, he had such an off year. And yes, he was hurt for a large part of it, but also you're paying these guys buckets and buckets and buckets of gold, it seems like, just to lose and get swept in the first round. That's embarrassing. Regardless, let's move on to a similar story here. The Clippers and the Mavericks. I love, and like, first of all, retweet everything we just said about the Suns to the Clippers, finding these past their prime stars and investing in them and for them to not show up. I'm kind of slowly being out on Paul George. I don't know. He just, to me, doesn't really seem like he shows up in big games as much as he used to. And I'm like watching last night, just kind of seeing how everyone on the Clippers seemed to just give up towards the end. There was never a point where I was worried about the Mavericks. On the other end, the Mavericks finally seem like they have something there. Like there is something in that team, in that locker room, in the stadium that has momentum. Luka seems like he has help. He doesn't have to do everything on his own. They got good pieces. I'm talking about guys like Gafford, guys like PJ Washington, guys like Derek Jones, who are doing their roles. And even Kyrie. Like Kyrie, they showed a stat on him last night, how the whole first half of the series, he's averaged like 7 points. But then in the second half, he's been averaging like 20. And just to have that understanding of what everyone's kind of role is. And when Kyrie does his thing, Kyrie's going to do his thing. When Luka's hot, he's going to do his thing. But at the end of the day, we're just together as a team right now. And it's really cool to see the Mavericks finally take that next step.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a throne room preview because Kyrie Irving deserves a ton of credit for how not only has he been on his best behavior. I know he's a grown man. I shouldn't use those terms, but you know, over the last 5 years, all he's done is cause problems. All he's done is fight with teammates, and he's jumped around from Boston to Brooklyn.
He's been in a bad light.
Yeah, and it hasn't been a good look for him, you know, and he's been saying controversial things. And now it feels like this past season, there was none of that. He fit right in with Luka and you got to remember, he deserves even more credit because last season, after they traded for him, the Mavs completely blew up and tanked and missed the playoffs when they were, I think, as high as the 5 or the 4 seed in the West when they traded for Kyrie. So last season, they acquired him thinking they were going to get over the hump, you know, and it crashed and burned. Then you get a full off season with Kyrie in Dallas, and you look at what they're doing now. They win a playoff series. So he deserves massive credit. A lot of the credit goes to Luka, of course, but Kyrie, to basically, I don't want to say reinvent yourself, but to get back to your old ways a little bit has been impressive. And then with the Clippers, I mean, in honor of Star Wars Day, welcome to the dark side as far as the Paul George thing goes. I don't know what took you so long. I have been out on Paul George since 2020 in the bubble when he hit the backboard. He hit the side of the backboard in Game 7. And it's not even that. It's also like the 2019 playoffs when Dame hit that insane shot and waved goodbye to everybody, right? That was over Paul George. And Paul George afterwards is saying, that's a bad shot. Like, dude, just own it. It's not a bad shot. He nailed it in your face. What are you talking about? That's a bad shot. So the Clippers, man, I've always had a soft spot for them because I feel like they're similar to our Lions in the NBA. They've been around forever. They have had some good teams here and there, but they've always kind of been the overlooked team in their division or their conference or what have you. I just can't get behind this team. I can't embrace this Clippers team. The Clippers as a franchise, I'll root for them forever, but this team, like you said, Ethan, we're just throwing a bunch of stars and a bunch of half-bends in the pot and hoping it works. Paul George, Russ, Harden, Kawhi. I mean, MVP trophies and past rings. Let's just bring them together and hope they can make one more run together. It's not how it works, man.
I'm sitting watching this game, and I hate to come at Russell Westbrook, but he looks just lost. He looks like he just does not fulfill a spot on this court and doesn't know. He's in the corner so much like he's gonna do something with that ball when he gets it. He's not a shooter.
No.
And he's sitting in this corner waiting for James Harden, who's like this hybrid point guard shooting guard, come off a screen and roll. But when you dish it out and you got Russ in the corner, that's just not gonna work. And where's Kawhi? What happened to Kawhi? I feel like I always hear, but I never see.
No, No, Ethan, I have completely lost track, and I don't even care. He's always hurt. There's always something. And oddly enough, in this series against the Mavericks, when he played, they lost. I mean, he didn't even impact winning like that. You know what I mean? The games the Clippers won, Kawhi didn't even play. So it's fascinating. It's a weird phenomenon going on with the Clippers. They're another team similar to the Suns where they put all their eggs in this basket. They're paying these guys all this money, and it's like, what's the future hold for that team? How do you get out from under this boulder? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, ask what's his name? Pressey, the Thunder GM. What's his name?
Oh, yeah, Sam Presti.
Yeah. Ask him. He'll tell you how to build a team.
Yeah,
we'll get there. Let's just let's head right into that. OKC Thunder and New Orleans Pelicans. Let's call a spade a spade. The Pelicans had zero business being in this spot. They were, for lack of a better word, a fluke of a playoff team. Now, Zion was out, and I do think he would have made somewhat of a difference for sure had he played. He was dogging in that play-in game. I don't know if you watched that, Trent, but when they played the Lakers, he had 40-some points. And it was but it was one of those moments where you had some sort of hope where you're like, this is the Zion we've been waiting for. And then, boom, he got hurt. And it was like, CJ McCollum, he's outdated. Brandon Ingram's kind of like Kawhi, where this guy just never talks. He has the same face all the time. And it's like some days he shows up and he drops 40, and then other days he'll put up 12 and 7. And you're like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing right
Dude,
now?
I feel like Brandon Ingram in a weird way kind of missed the boat a little bit. I think like when LeBron first came to LA, and you remember there was that young group of Josh Hart,
Uh-huh.
Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram. They were talking about Brandon Ingram's the guy they were going to keep around to stay with LeBron. That didn't end up happening. They traded him and part of that AD deal to New Orleans. Long story short, he became the guy that New Orleans latched onto. And as
Yeah.
Zion was still trying to get his career started, BI was kind of going off and stuff. And he was
Yep.
being talked about as a major trade piece and stuff for a while. I just think his value's been driven down, and it's kind of sad because I like Brandon Ingram. But
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
is
you're
sad.
right. In that series in particular, I think the Thunder deserve massive credit because I definitely, I don't want to say I wasn't buying what they were selling. I thought they would win the series. I just didn't know to kind of be a young team and to burst onto the scene like that and be the one seed and not really have to
Oh,
face any
100%.
adversity. And there were questions, and I still do have some of those questions, but to sweep the Pels in the first round, like that's impressive. I don't care who you're playing.
And that's exactly what I was going to say, Trent. Just kind of going off what I said with the Timberwolves. I expected this younger team to kind of get off to a rough start, sort of like the Magic a little bit. This young team new to the scene. They have a lot
Right.
of talent, but they don't really know playoff ball yet. So I was kind of expecting them to have somewhat of a Magic Cavs series, go head to head in the first round a little bit. But no, they showed right up to the scene, knew exactly what the assignment was. And if you're a Thunder fan, you could not be more excited about this team's future. I mean, seeing like even as a basketball player, like the camaraderie behind these guys, seeing how they band together, their relationships off the court, it seems like that commercial with Chet Holmgren,
Oh
and
my
that's
God.
probably one of the worst commercials I've ever seen.
It's terrible. And it's on
It's,
every single commercial break
oh
too.
yikes, yeah. Regardless of that, though, with that aside, these guys are exciting. These guys
Yeah.
are very exciting, and I'm here for it. Last series in the West here, the Nuggets and the Lakers. I don't want to say too much about it because we'll talk more about them later. But the Nuggets are exactly who I thought they were, looking like champ contenders again. Cannot wait for that first game tonight. And the Lakers, yet again, confusion across the board. Confusion. It seems like anarchy almost. And Magic Johnson said it best, like something needs to change with these guys. I don't know if you've been keeping up with what Magic said about the Lakers, but it's sort of like we've been talking about these teams in the West for this whole episode. It seems like just guys that just don't mesh well together, and that's what you got at the end of the day. Nuggets 4-1. I'm a big fan of Denver. I think they're gonna make some noise coming up.
Here's the thing. I would actually push back a little on the Lakers didn't mesh well. I know they kind of used Darvin Ham as their scapegoat yesterday and fired him on Friday as we record here on a Saturday, but the Nuggets are just the better team. I thought LeBron was pretty good in that series. He was very good considering the fact that he's in year 21 and he averaged 28, 10, and 8 or whatever it was in that series. He was great in the fourth quarters. Anthony Davis was pretty solid too. Had that off game in the middle of the series, game 2 or 3. I don't really remember, but the Nuggets are just better. They're the defending champs. Jamal Murray took over late in the games. Jokic is Jokic. I mean, even when he's having an off game, quote unquote, it's 20 points, 20 rebounds. It's like, are you kidding me? What are we going to do with this guy? Nuggets are just better. They're deeper. I thought that Lakers team, of course, they left a lot to be desired in the regular season, and that's kind of why they got the Nuggets for their first round draw. But I think it had the Lakers pushed a little harder and gotten, to play a Phoenix in the first round or so. I think they would have won a playoff series. I mean, this is essentially the same group that went to the Western Conference Finals a year ago. So I don't think it's so much they don't mesh well. I just think the Nuggets are just on a mission, man. They're looking to repeat. They look good too.
Yeah, but Trent, like this kind of goes back to like way back when we talked about Purdue. What in your mind, what do you think is like succeeding for this Lakers team? Because when I look at a team that has
they fell short.
D'Lo,
They failed.
right?
Yeah.
But when I look at a team that has D'Lo, AD, LeBron, Austin Reeves, like they're putting this roster together to win now, and that has been very clearly communicated by who's their GM? Is it Daryl Morey?
Rob Pelinka.
Rob Pelinka. Very clearly communicated because they literally sell all of their young talent for these guys where the expectation is we're going to win now. So I'm worried about this Lakers team. If I'm a Lakers fan, I'm concerned. But yeah, like you said, Nuggets are just a better team,
They are. And you're right, Ethan. I'm glad you clarified that, because from that standpoint, yes, they absolutely did fall short. I mean, losing in the first round is not a successful season for the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't care if they're the 7th seed, because you know what? 2 years ago when, last year when they were the 7th seed, they went to the Western Conference Finals after upsetting the Grizzlies in round 1 and the Warriors, who were then the defending champs in round 2. So like last season was an example of them overachieving. This season, underachieving. And you said something interesting that I completely agree with, specifically because it's a LeBron team and we don't know how much time he's got left, and he'll even tell you that, and he's voiced that over the last couple of weeks, is every LeBron team is a win now, push all your chips to the middle, try to get as much as you can around him. And that's what they did by re-upping with Reeves and D'Lo, and it just wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. Nuggets are good, man.
Right. All right. Well, that is our last matchup from the West. Let's go ahead and head over to the East. Let's touch on first. Let's go Celtics and Heat. What did you think about that? Or I'll start with that one, Trent, actually, since you just got up. Personally, I think this could have been a lot more popcorn had Jimmy Butler been in the game. It was very tough to watch Miami sometimes. I'm out on Hero. I don't think he is ready for that superstar role that they kind of thought he was going to fill.
Agree.
And the Celtics are looking legit, man. They got Derek White coming out here playing like he's friggin' John Starks in 2000 or whoever the Knicks had back then. But Derek White is him right now. And Jaylen Brown and Tatum haven't even been having super spectacular games, and they're still winning 4-1 against the Heat. I'm sitting pretty if I'm the Celtics right now. That being said, there's still a long road to go, and I'm excited to talk about these next matchups. But Trent, what do you think about the Heat and the Celtics?
Even if Jimmy Butler was healthy, I got to be honest, I just, this Heat team didn't. We talked about this on our last episode, I think, for a bit. The fact that the Heat, they've earned the respect, they've earned the trust that they have, where everyone's kind of like, okay, Heat culture, doesn't really matter what seed they get, they could always make a run, because they've made it to the finals as the 8th seed. We've seen that, right? But I also think they got a little too comfortable with that. There was almost an arrogance with this year's team specifically that wasn't with the other teams in the past. I just didn't like it. The vibes were off this year. Yeah. Jimmy Butler was in and out of the lineup all year. Bam Adebayo was in and out of the lineup all year. Like you said, when you put all that extra weight on Tyler Hero's shoulders, he doesn't deliver. It just was kind of an awkward situation. And conversely, this is a Celtics team that won the East, or got the top seed in the East by 14 games or something like that. Like, they boat race the East, man. And this is an Eastern Conference that has stars like Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid, Giannis, Dame. So you got to give the Celtics credit, as much as I hate to do it. And you know what? I mean, they deserve credit because the Heat kind of have been the Celtics boogeyman over the last 5-6 years.
That's what I was going to say. They've been the Achilles heel almost.
And they went and took it right to him and, punched him in the mouth. The Heat are good enough. The Heat culture, that's worth one game. So credit to the Heat for standing up strong and pushing it to 5. But I got to be honest, I think you would agree, I didn't have much faith in the Heat to begin with, even with Jimmy, to be honest.
Yeah, the Celtics were just looking like the best team in the league all year. Yeah, they're a total wagon. Anyways, the next East matchups are a little bit more exciting here. Let's move on to the Knicks beating the 76ers 4-2 on the road the other night in a crucial Game 6. Trent, what was your reaction? I'll let you lead here. What was your reaction with this Knicks Sixers series?
Jalen Brunson. See, here's the thing. We talk so much about SGA and Ant-Man and this younger guard that's coming in, and Wemby and stuff. Jalen Brunson, it's all happening right before our eyes, right? I mean, the Knicks won a playoff series last season when he was their best player. Then this season, they lose Julius Randle down the stretch, and everyone's kind of like, what are the Knicks going to be able to do? Because they were that 2 seed. But they were that 2 seed with Julius Randle for much of the year, their second best player. They lose him. And Jalen Brunson said, give me the ball. Give me the ball. The New York Knicks, the Villanova Knicks. It's him, Josh Hart, and who else am I thinking of? Who's the other?
Dante DiVincenzo.
Yeah, DiVincenzo. It's those 3 from Villanova. So I just think those guys deserve massive credit. I will always die on this hill. Basketball is better when the Knicks are good. The Knicks are so good for the sport. I know they haven't won since '73, but man, that's a franchise that, I mean, when Melo was there in his prime, they're always on TV. They're fun to watch. Mike Breen's the announcer. Like, the Knicks, exactly. When the Knicks are good, it's great for the sport. So credit to the Knicks and the Sixers, man. I don't know where they go from here. and this is probably a different can of worms, so I'll make this quick. But Joel Embiid's playing for Team USA this summer at the Olympics. All right.
Okay.
A lot of these big threes over the years, the 2011 Miami Heat teaming up with D Wade, Bosh, and LeBron, that was conceived at an Olympics. Reportedly, the whole decline trade where Chris Paul wanted to go play with Kobe, that was conceived at an Olympics. Just saying, the fact that Embiid has not only gotten his American citizenship, he's going to play for Team USA, he's going to be playing with all these guys. I think Embiid's out of Philly by the end of the summer. I'll say that. After the free agency cycle, he's done. He's fed up with it there, and he should be. Ethan, I'll leave you with this. Joel Embiid is the only MVP winner in NBA history that has never even played in a conference finals. He's never even made it to the conference finals. He's played a couple of game sevens in round 2, so he's been very, very close, but never made it. Never really made what you would call a deep run in the playoffs. So he's got to be fed up.
Yeah, he's got to be very fed up. And my reaction to this series, it's just like, again, brought this sense of like basketball is such a great sport when it's like the stakes are so high like this. And this was a series where you have two cities, right, known for kind of beating a path a little, on the beaten path a little bit, hard-nosed, punching each other in the mouth, Philly, New York. And that's exactly what it brought. Two teams that just seemingly were going back and forth the entire series. And like you said, Jalen Brunson just wanted the ball in his hands the entire time. Talk about a team that's complimenting everybody. These New York Knicks, man, everybody knows their role. Everybody's got their thing. And the Sixers just could not hold up. The Sixers could not hold up. If I'm Joel Embiid, I would as well be a little bit upset. Trent, Tyrese Maxey, are you in or are you out on him?
I mean, I'm definitely not out, but I'm not. Here's the problem. So Maxey will do something like drop 40 in a playoff game, and everyone wants to talk about how he's got next and everything. But he has been in the league for a few years. I don't know what he averaged this season, but I'm not ready to like step back and say he's on a guy like Brunson's level, because Brunson even has proven it over the course of a couple playoff runs, whereas Maxey. Yes, he'll have the 40-point playoff game, but then he'll also go completely silent in Game 7 last year, if you remember, when Harden was still on the team. So there's just I'm not in or out, I would say. I'm lukewarm on Tyrese Maxey. I think he's a good player. He's really solid. He's very fun to watch. He deserves that at least. But I think he's another guy that it might be interesting to see what he can do if Embiid leaves. And it's really like officially his team, and they try to get him a running mate in the backcourt, make him sort of ball-centric. But what are your thoughts?
I'm not sure. I think he's still just a little bit too early on to really know. Like you said, Joel Embiid takes a lot of that spotlight. But even when he was out for a little bit, Maxey was balling. So I would like to see him in somewhat of a different role, I think, Maxey, where he doesn't have a guy like Embiid that demands the presence of the defense. I was thinking, though, while you were talking, you know who else is a guy that's just stealing money from the Sixers?
Tobias
Harris. Yes. They are paying that guy so much money to do nothing. And that's a problem. That is a huge problem. I wouldn't even know.
You know what's even scarier? I think the Pistons, it's been reported the Pistons might pay him this offseason. That's even scarier. The Pistons are going to try to acquire Tobias Harris because I think he's a free agent. No. Yeah. Rough.
Why would we do that? Oh my gosh, Sonny. Let's not talk about the Pistons. We got a few weeks away from the Pistons here. Let's get our get.
They can't hurt us anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, moving on to the next series, the Pacers and the Bucks. Man, this was another fun one to watch. Basketball is back in Indiana, by the way. Basketball is so back. Just a basketball state here. Tyrese Haliburton, Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, a great piece, I think. Just a team that wanted to win the entire time. A team that was relentless. A team that, even though it seemed like, with Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, these guys who have touted the stage on the finals before, who've been there, who know what their worth is. I think the Pacers were playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I think they kind of felt disrespected being the 6th seed. And it clearly showed. Say what you want. Giannis was out for the series. I'm sure he would have made a little bit of an impact a little bit, he would have made a huge impact in this series. But regardless, the Pacers did what they had to do, and they got the job done.
This series was a catch-22 for me because for a couple reasons. I have always been anti-Doc Rivers, always. So when
Yep.
Doc Rivers takes over that team and then they basically faceplant, but here's the thing. I'm such a Giannis guy, and I'm actually such a Dame guy, too, that I thought when they teamed up, they would eventually be able to figure out in a playoff series like this against a young Pacers team, an inexperienced Pacers team.
Sure.
So I do think if Giannis was healthy and Dame actually missed a couple games too, I think maybe the Bucks could have pulled it out and figured it out. But I'll always fall back on, Doc Rivers was the coach. Now, on the other side, the Pacers. Halliburton deserves to be put in that conversation. You know, we've talked about SGA. We've talked about Ant-Man. We threw in Brunson in the last little series. And now Halliburton. Those are the young guard that are really taking over and trying to say, look, this is our league now. You know, I know you're Dame Lillard. I know everyone loves you. But, like, it's our time for a guy like Jalen Brunson. I know you're Joel Embiid. You've won MVPs. I'm Jalen Brunson. You know what I mean? I just think it's kind of cool to see this movement happening, and I don't think we can leave Tyrese Halliburton out of that conversation, even though he plays in a place like Indianapolis where you don't really get as much media coverage. But credit to him.
Yeah, and you know what else is kind of cool when you look at it? I feel like the point guards of the past, they were, and I say the past like it's really only like 6 years ago. Like the Currys, the Russell Westbrooks, Trent, name some other names from that era.
James Harden.
These guys were, I don't even feel comfortable saying this, but one-dimensional a little bit, where Curry was this scorer from every single area of the court, but he wasn't known for his defense. Russell Westbrook was just an athletic animal, but he couldn't shoot.
Chris
right?
Paul.
Chris Paul was a passer and a mid-range shooter at best, you know, but like earlier in his career, he was a defensive player. I'll give him that. But like, I feel like these guys coming up, Shea, Tyrese, and Brunson, they are well-rounded players.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is well-rounded. And like, they clearly are bought into this team game, clearly, where they make the extra pass. They do what needs to be done to win. That doesn't mean they show up and they feel like they need to score, but they will do whatever it takes. And that's exciting to see.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love like all the, for lack of a better term, the dog and all these younger players coming up because it is refreshing kind of get a new competitive shot in the arm for the NBA because I think they actually need it, quite frankly. But yeah, I don't think you said anything wrong there. Completely agree.
All right, and then we got one more series. We've got the Magic and the Cavs, which is not over yet, and I'm still riding my Cavs pick. I'm still riding them. These guys are, again, Cleveland's another city where it's hard-nosed, tough, and I feel like they're just a Game 7 kind of team here. And I was watching last night as I was working, just some of the shots Donovan Mitchell was hitting. Obviously, Cleveland came up short, but I think a young team like the Magic on the road in their first playoff series, really as a group here, I think the Cavs should get it done. They're a defensive team. Both of them really are, but this has been a really fun one to watch. Very defensive, very push and shove, chippy. And we're learning a lot about guys like Franz Wagner, guys like Paolo Banchero. Even Jalen Suggs has been doing very well. But you also, and Trent, I say this, even though the Cavs were my pick, I feel like we're also learning a little bit about Darius Garland, who's kind of been underperforming in this series, in my opinion. But regardless, I still think Cavs in 7. Cavs, I feel like Shannon Sharp in 2016. You know, Jalen Suggs, Henry Ruggs, Cavs in 7. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I gotcha. I agree with your first sentiment that I think, you know, this Magic team is so weird and so likable in a weird way because they've got the entire team is young. The entire team, their entire rotation is like year 3 or less. You've got the Wagners who played at Michigan, Suggs played at Gonzaga, Banchero played at Duke, Anthony Black, the point guard, played at Arkansas. These are all guys that have tournament experience, March Madness, which we love so much, Ethan. So even though this might be their first NBA playoff run, they're used to do or die basketball. Whereas a Darius Garland, who came from Vanderbilt, he ain't used to that same kind of thing. You know what I mean? Jared Allen, I don't know where the hell he came from, but I just think this Cavs team's a little soft, a little bit, a little soft,
You
just a little
think,
bit.
huh?
Just a little bit. And I do think obviously Donovan Mitchell's going to be the best player on the floor every time he steps on the court. But dude, I give the Magic massive credit. I'll agree with you. I think the Cavs are going to get it done in 7. As we record on May the 4th. Game 7 is tomorrow on Sunday. But so I'll be tuned in. I mean, we're excited to watch it. It's the only Game 7 of this first round, so of course we'll be watching. Best 2 words in sports, right, Ethan? Game 7.
Game 7.
I think the Cavs will take it, but I just want to give the Magic a lot of credit. It's been cool being down here, having the Magic fan base really embrace this team because they are a really likable team, even though it's kind of a weird mod podge of weird March Madness stars and young college kids. But they're balling.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's what we got from the NBA playoffs here. Trent, it is my understanding that you wanted to kind of move on to this little this or that segment. Let's do a little bit of that before we move on.
Yeah, we'll debut this. It's just this or that. I'm just going to give Ethan 2 things, and he's going to just rapid fire tell me which one he approves of. If I told you Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Anthony Edwards, who are you taking?
Anthony Edwards.
I agree with you there.
Should I provide some?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I just think you look at a guy like Anthony Edwards, and he has that thing you can't teach. And that is a pure basketball killer instinct. Kobe had it. MJ had it. A lot of people are calling Anthony Edwards like MJ's incarnate or whatever. And I think it's a little too early to say that. But regardless, you can tell watching this guy that he lives for the big stage, lives for it 100%. And you cannot teach that. Not only does he live for the big stage, but he shows up on the big stage. And for that reason, you always want that guy on your team, and you always want to build around that guy. So give me Anthony Edwards.
I'll agree with you for all those same reasons, even though I do think this is a bit of a closer, question than maybe you and I believe. And I think it's something that might need to be monitored over the next few years. It kind of feels like way back in the day when it was LeBron and KD both coming up at the same time. And it was like, which one you like?
We'll keep receipts.
We'll keep receipts on that. SGA versus Ant-Man. Second, so I don't know if you heard or saw this story, Ethan, but Jason Kelce is going to replace RG3 on Monday Night Countdown. So I want to ask you, 2 guys that have been in the media a little bit. I mean, Jason Kelce, not as much because obviously he just retired, but as a personality, do you prefer Jason Kelce or RG3?
Jason Kelce, for sure. I like that. Jason Kelce's a little unhinged. I think he provides a little bit of he will provide a little bit of life and a little bit of like not as seriousness to the game. But dude played in the NFL for a billion years, it seems like. He's going to have some crazy insight. Kind of like when Tony Romo first came to the stage and he started like calling out plays before they happen. I feel like it's going to be a little bit like that, where this guy and an offensive lineman too. And I think it's about time we start showing the O-line some love. So I'm interested to hear what he has to say.
Now, I was going to say that's the unique thing. I mean, even like back in the day, the Mike Ditka, he was a tight end. Tommy Jackson was a linebacker, or maybe he was a D end or whatever. So nowadays, it's like you get the wide receivers, the quarterbacks that get the booth spots. So to give the O-line is a center, a voice, I think is cool. I will say this though. I think it'd be cool if maybe they give RG3 more of a role with the college stuff because he won the Heisman, of course. And now with everything going on in college sport, RG3 is great. He's a great follow on X. I don't know if you follow him, but like he always has good insight, and he's a little cheesy, a little corny, always trying to do too much sometimes. But Jason Kelce, I agree with you. He's going to be electric. Okay, Ethan, today is the Kentucky Derby. I think it's the 150th run for the Roses. So would you rather go to the Kentucky Derby or would you rather go over the pond to Wimbledon? Which event would you rather experience?
Good question, actually. I'm going to go Wimbledon, personally. And I know that the Derby is like an event and everything. And I love the idea of like getting dressed up and like all the outfits and stuff. And it's cool. And I'm sure there's so much pageantry when you're there. And just seeing all that would be super awesome. But I don't like how the Derby is like one race and then it's just like over. Versus Wimbledon, I would enjoy seeing these guys from all over the world play a sport that I played in high school and I loved. So I personally would say Wimbledon. There's also pageantry at Wimbledon too. Don't get me wrong, but I would thoroughly enjoy watching it more overseas.
I agree with you because I played tennis as well. Ethan, you were a varsity tennis player. I just played, dicked around. It was fun, but
We had a good time.
tennis is great. Tennis is great. So I'd go Wimbledon as well. But yeah, there. Don't get us wrong. There is pageantry at Wimbledon. I'll never forget. It was a couple years ago. I think it was the 100th center court turned 100 years old or something like that. And Chris Fowler during every single commercial break. All right, we'll step away from the championships at Wimbledon as we celebrate the 100th birthday of center court. And me and my brother Brock, we just look at each other like, are these guys serious? Are they going to do this every single time they cut away? I guess they are. So, but yeah, I just wanted to give the Derby some love. I wanted to work the Derby in somehow because the Derby is, to a lot of people, it's a big deal. But I'm with you. I'd go Wimbledon. In light of May the 4th, Ethan, light side or dark side of the Force? What are you? What do you vibe with? What are you rocking with? What you got?
Child me would say light side thoroughly. Child me would say light side with a bullet. As I got older, let me tell you something. This doesn't need to turn into a Star Wars podcast, but it can be.
Oh, it could.
As I indulged in as much Star Wars content as I could, every single show, every single movie. I've seen the Clone Wars series front to back. I've watched Bad Batch. I've watched Rebels. I've watched any content you could probably put out that's Star Wars related. The Jedi and the light side were just as corrupt at points than the dark side. So as I got older, there was a piece of me that said, okay, was the dark side totally in the wrong? The answer is no. They weren't always in the wrong. But when you're talking about everyday life, I mean, obviously you got to pick the light side. I mean, they're working to protect other people. They're working to save other people. But I just think the Jedi way of life was never sustainable. It was never gonna be a thriving community like they wanted to, because there wasn't clear leadership, and there was a clear miscommunication between the council and the government, and that was an issue. And historically, we see the parallels between the church and the state, kind of in there. But no, art imitates art, and this is where this comes from. But you see the dark side, and I feel like we're talking about this like it's some up and coming,
like
team.
It's real life.
Yeah. You gotta buy stock on these dark side guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, but I'm obviously a light guy, but I just see a lot of the dark side's issues, and it was just they almost like totally polarized the light side, and I think there could have been a middle ground for sure.
Yeah, I got you. I agree with a lot of what you said. It's kind of funny because that was like Mr. Rice coming out right there explaining, the church, the state, all that stuff. I'll tell you what, though, I'm neither. I'm a scoundrel. I want to be a space cowboy. I want to be Han Solo. That's all I want. I don't even want the Force. I don't want a lightsaber. Give me a blaster and a spaceship, baby. That's all I need. But last one for you. We got the Summer Olympics coming up. I'm sure as they start happening, we will probably get into it a little bit with some banter on the pod about the Summer Olympics. Only 2 weeks long, and it's still a couple months away. But do you prefer the Summer Olympics or the Winter Olympics?
Summer.
Me too. And it's not close for me, but like for a lot of people, other countries, I'm sure, the Nordic countries or Canada or Russia, they get more into the winter because those sports are just bigger there. But for me, Ethan, it's like we need basketball, we need swimming, we need volleyball, we need what am I missing? There's a ton of them. Golf. Yeah. There's a bunch of stuff to watch.
Don't they do soccer too, or is that just World Cup? Am I tripping?
Yeah, they do soccer, they do tennis. It's awesome, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very excited for the world, or not the World Cup, the Summer Olympics for sure. And I'll be getting to watch some gymnastics. My girlfriend is really excited about this gymnastics stuff coming up. So that's the content I feel like I'll be learning a lot about. Swimming will be a fun one too. Is Phelps is he done, or is he?
Yeah, he's done. He's done.
Okay.
Yeah, but Katie Ledecky, on the women's side, she's like the greatest we've ever seen in that, on the women's side of things. So it'll be fun to watch her. Do we want to move into our reflection and projection, Ethan?
I think we let's touch on the throne room doghouse first.
Okay.
We got to do our bread and butter. So I will start with my doghouse. We preface some of our picks earlier, but I'm throwing and I think this has been a pick before too. I'm throwing the entire Lakers organization in the doghouse, the entire Lakers organization. And I'm not just going to blame it on Darvin Ham, although I have seen, and this is kind of embarrassing, I've seen some videos of some of the stuff that he is going on during timeouts, and it really does look like, Trent, that this guy just doesn't really have a clue what's going on sometimes. And like some of the stuff that he's putting on the whiteboard, it's I'm like, I don't really know. So I'm not putting the entire blame on him, but I will say the front office is for sure the
Corrupt.
one to blame. Yeah, the
Yep.
one to blame in this scenario. I mentioned this earlier. They have bought into this idea of, it almost seems like we're selling tickets more than we're building a championship team. And they are getting rid of every single young talent they had just to go over a few players. Since 2017, they have gotten rid of Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Kyle Kuzma, D'Lo. They brought D'Lo back. Jordan Clarkson, Josh Hart, Alex Caruso, Zubac, Larry Nance Jr., and Gary Payton II. And these are all guys who have a role on their teams and are filling their role, I would say. And Trent, you're already giving me a face.
No, your point's well taken, but am I losing sleep over not having Ivica Zubac anymore? I'm not. I'm but I get what you're saying. Your point is, or Jordan Clarkson, like, come on.
All that to sell out for LeBron and AD, though, I don't.
They won a championship. They won a championship.
In the bubble?
Yeah, I know.
In the freaking bubble. Are we going to count that?
I mean,
listen, I'll say this. Another reason why I have them in the doghouse. There's these talks about drafting Bronny James, and this is a problem.
Oh, it's exhausting.
If he gets drafted by the Lakers, I think if I was a diehard, I think I would move from LA out and just move to another city, personally, because that's just insane. But let me tell you something, Trent. I had a question, actually. How realistic would it be? Because that the Lakers are trying to essentially, like, they want to fulfill LeBron's legacy or whatever, pass the torch, get them on the same team. If I am another team ahead of them in the second round, am I going to use my pick on Bronny James to leverage the Lakers?
I think there's plenty of teams that will do it, knowing that if they get Bronny, I think there's teams that would use a first-round pick on, like, for example, Philadelphia. What are they building for the future? Their time is now. If they keep Embiid and they got Maxey already, they got their star for the future. They're a team that I could see even using a first-round pick on Bronny, because then they're going to get LeBron over there, and it's like, all right, let's roll the balls out, man. Let's do it. So there are plenty of teams that I think could do something like that.
Almost like a chess piece.
It is, and it's fascinating. But I'm with you, Ethan. I mean, Bronny's not ready for the league. I think he's got to transfer to a mid-major. Like, there's rumors he might go to Duquesne, where LeBron's high school coach has connections and stuff. And he would be like the man there and be able to average probably close to 20 a game as the best player on that. I think that's what Bronny needs to do. And then he can declare for the draft, and he might even improve his stock. But whether he comes out this year or next year, he's going to get drafted because people want LeBron. Mm-hmm. Even at age, 40, which is just insane. It's like how Tom Brady was too. We're so numb to it. We don't even understand it. And we quite literally don't know anything different. I don't remember the NBA before LeBron.
Yeah, and let me come to LeBron's defense a little bit, because I've given this guy a lot of flack. I've heard so much about this, like people saying, LeBron never had the killer. He doesn't have the killer instinct, But yeah, you're right, Trent. He's 40. But like when you look back to his heyday, like early Cavs, even on the Heat, he was doing some killer instinct stuff.
Yeah,
for sure, back in the day. So I don't know if I'm totally in on that. He lacks the killer instinct thing, because it might have seemed like that, like as of right now in his career, where he passes it maybe a little bit more, doesn't always hit the game winner. But like 10 years ago, he was doing those things. He was hitting the shots too. I mean, you remember.
Well, there are also teams that in the playoffs quite literally never beat him. Like the Chicago Bulls never beat him. The Toronto Raptors never beat him. Yeah. The New York Knicks never beat him. And these are all teams that he played multiple times, whether he was in Miami or Cleveland. So, I don't want to turn this into a whole LeBron soliloquy, but Ethan, I agree with you. Let me make myself clear. I agree with you on the Lakers front office organization, even Darvin Ham to an extent, getting some flack. I wouldn't go back to 2017 personally. I'd say since 2022, probably the last 3 years, whatever. That's where I would really, really, really hold their feet to the fire, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, Trent, what's your doghouse pick?
My doghouse pick is Patrick Beverley, and I don't need to really do a whole thing on this because my guy Nick Wright, who is my favorite member of the media, and if you go watch him talk and watch him do his thing, you'll probably understand why I like him so much. He's really annoying, and he's that guy that's just like, he's a huge LeBron guy. He's a nerd. A lot of the things that exude from me come through Nick Wright. He's like the GOAT of what I want to be. So he did a 3-minute monologue on Pat Bev. So just go look that up. Look up Nick Wright, WRIGHT. Basically just talking about how he's a misogynist clown who made something out of thin air, and he's never been that good. He's a dirty player, all this stuff. And he runs through from his career starting in Houston to a couple nights ago calling out a female reporter for not subscribing to his podcast. Like, he just good riddance, man. Like, the league is not going to miss you. So Pat Bev is in the doghouse.
That's a good pick. He does talk a lot. He's a clown.
Way too much. Yeah. What's Patrick Beverley's best moment? Winning a play-in game and ripping his jersey off with Minnesota and jumping on the scorers table and crying.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Dang. Yeah, that's a good pick. I'll tell you who my throne room pick is, though, Trent. My throne room pick is Derek freaking White. Man, this guy has the most points in the NBA playoffs right now, 135, I think.
That's wild.
And he is quite literally leading the Celtics into the next round. And it's scary to see. I almost wanted to give it to Brad Stevens because he just won Executive of the Year. But I thought a more suitable one would be for Derek White because this guy just does it all. He is like a Swiss Army knife a little bit. I hate to compare him to like SGA Halliburton, but he does everything. He is the best defender on that team, the best perimeter defender. And he has the most points in the tournament. He's like top 3 players in the playoffs right now, Derek White. And which that's scary because they have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown as well. So if I'm a team that has to play the Celtics next round, so let's Magic or Cleveland, I'm a little bit worried, Trent. A little bit worried. And it's scary that Derek White might have to be their guy that you have to defend. You know what I'm saying? So right. I'm giving all the flowers in the world to Derek White. He's doing his thing and he's humble about it. He seems like a really nice guy. So Derek White for sure.
Well, defensively, Derek White stepping up into that bigger role, like you said, and then also the Celtics acquiring Drew Holiday in the offseason. I think those are 2 huge parts of like why the Celtics are such a wagon now, and they finally kind of look like, I mean, this is the best Celtics team that they've had with this iteration of guys, Brown and Tatum, and building around them. So yeah, your credit to Derek White, and that's a guy who played in San Antonio and probably got some of that championship experience from Popovich. I mean, he didn't win a ring there, but just to play under Pop for a couple of years and bring that to Boston of all places, credit to him. My throne room, and I'll make this quick because I already elaborated on it quite a bit when we talked about the Mavs Clippers series. Kyrie Irving deserves a lot of credit. He has changed the narrative, think about it like this, Ethan. The Brooklyn Nets team of Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and then that blew up in everyone's face. And I don't know what you thought, I thought that was kind of the end for all 3 of those guys. Kyrie's moving on. Kyrie looks fine. Kyrie's a part of a Dallas team that looks primed to maybe even win a championship. So credit to Kyrie for not being controversial, sticking to basketball, sticking to hoops, doing his thing, still being himself. But I don't know. He had a lot of nice things to say last night after they moved on, and he just kind of, I'm paraphrasing here, but saying, I feel like I found myself again. So that's been cool to see. Congratulations, Kyrie.
I'm very happy for him. It was relieving to see him take over the game like that last night.
Yeah.
And to show some of those flashes of who he used to be in Cleveland. So I couldn't agree more with that pick, Trent. I like Kyrie there.
You want to do reflection and projection?
Let's reflect and project, Trent. Do you want to break it down?
Ethan killed it 2 weeks ago on our last episode with the 2013-14 Indiana Pacers. So he has earned the right. Ball's back. Make it, take it. So here we
Okay.
go. I've got another basketball team for you, E. And
Okay.
it's from a little bit more recent than that one, but still, let me see here, 5 years ago. The 2018-19 LA Clippers. So this is the team, Ethan. I don't know if you remember. In the first round of the playoffs, or maybe it was the second round, I don't really remember. But in the playoffs, they pushed the Warriors with KD to the brink. Might have been 6 games. I just remember, I remember watching these games with our buddy Spencer, who might be listening to this. So shout out to Spencer. But it's our freshman year of college, and this was the team that Kawhi Leonard then joined after winning his championship with the Raptors. So if you can think back, how many of those Clippers can you name from 2018-19 that Kawhi and Paul George jumped on ship with them? And we've mentioned, by the way, we have mentioned a couple of these guys throughout the show for various reasons, just random players that have been mentioned.
I remember a couple.
All
so let's get this out of the air really quick. Was Doc Rivers still the coach of that team?
He was, yes.
Okay. Paul George.
Paul George was not there yet. He was in OKC with Russ.
Sick.
But you're good. Keep going. Keep going.
Then that means Shea was on that team.
He was.
Okay, so Shea was on that team.
He was sorry, I'm nerding out about this. I know no one really cares, but he was part of the deal to bring Paul George there from the Thunder. Yep. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander was sent to OKC, and that's where he is now. So
okay. So let me think a little bit then. So they had Shea, but Shea wasn't really like there was other guys on that team, no?
Yeah, there's a lot of these. Okay. I don't know how many of these guys you're going to be able to name, but then I'm going to start telling you random guys, and you're going to know all of them from like
Zubac.
2K.
Zubac was on that team.
Zubac was. You got 3.
Okay. Let's go with, and the Clippers are one of those teams that I just don't really follow from year to year. Let's go with Harden.
Harden wasn't there. Harden was still in Houston, believe it or not.
Ooh. Really?
Oh, long time ago.
Shea, Zubac, Clippers. How about a shot in the dark here? Was JJ Redick still playing?
No, but that's a good guess. He was still playing, but he wasn't on this team. That's a good guess, though.
Okay. All right, give me a hint.
Okay, well, one of the guys I literally just talked about, point guard, defender.
Chris Paul?
No. In everyone's face all the time.
Pat Beverly. Duh.
Pat Bev. Yep, Bev was on that team. Okay, here's another one that I think you should get. You should definitely get. I just don't want to make the hint too obvious. He won a couple awards. Not the MVP, not the Depoy. He won the 6th Man of the Year award a couple times.
Oh, Lou Williams.
Lou Will. Yeah, Lou Williams.
Lou Will. 6th man like Lou Will.
Yes.
That's crazy. This team really didn't have that much talent. And they pushed the Warriors that far?
I'll have to look up what they actually did, but I just remember the playoff series itself was very, very electric. It was very fun to watch.
I think I might have to tap out, Trent. I'm drawing a total blank right now.
All right, well, let me just read. This is kind of like a mixed group of just players you'll know. Okay?
Yeah, and it's weird because the Clippers now are just like a modge podge of all these guys that they've traded for or signed in free agency. So I'm curious to see what they looked like before all that.
And that's why you guess guys like Harden and Chris Paul.
Yeah,
and because I
just don't know how long they've been there.
I got you. So, Tobias Harris was there at the time.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Montrezl Harrell was there at the time.
Oh.
He was like another one of those guys that he was up and coming. Avery Bradley was a shooting guard that got some good minutes. Danilo Gallinari was like their best shooter. He played quite a bit. Boban Marjanovic, who we love.
Okay.
You got Zubac. You got that's pretty much. I mean, Luke Mbah Mute. Do you remember him?
Mute, yeah. Sounds like a deep team, honestly. Not
Marcin Gortat. Just a bunch of names that just like 2K names from the mid 2010s. You know what I mean?
That's hilarious.
Interesting team. They made a little bit of a run. It was fun. They pushed the Warriors a little bit, and that was the Warriors team where they were like unbeatable, right? KD, Steph, Clay. They had just won 2 rings. But Not
That
bad.
was a
You
good one.
got 5. You got 5. That's a tough group though. Tough,
Yeah,
like
that
weird
was tough.
bodge group. Yeah, you got it.
I wouldn't necessarily say I did it though. So next week we might have to move back and give you the rock again because that's how it rolls. And I didn't really feel good about it where I was asking for hints. I mean, I got a lot of them wrong. Shea and Zubats, I was pretty confident in, but I mean, I came out the gate guessing Paul George. So,
Dude, well, I got to be honest, dude. I thought Shea was the sneaky one that I thought you might not get because that was before he was a star. You know what I mean? He was
yeah.
like a young
Well,
piece that got moved for Paul George, but people don't really remember him on the Clippers.
this came about because, like, literally a few days ago, I knew that he wasn't drafted by the Thunder, and I was trying to think of the team he was on before. And so I knew that he was on the Clippers, which is weird to think, but that was
It
why
is.
I knew him, and I knew Zubats has been on that team for a little bit too.
Well,
But
nonetheless, 5 is a very respectable effort, especially for a team from 5 years ago named the Los Angeles Clippers. So there you go. Take a
right,
bow, my friend.
yeah. Well, let's move on to this projection before we send you out. To be honest, I don't Trent, I just feel like this is like your thing, but like I'm gonna give it my best shot here. I've learned a lot these past couple days from my students about this beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, and I've heard a lot about it. I've listened to the diss tracks or whatever. I couldn't tell you who's winning the diss. I think it's kind of just silly, but I pulled a line from Kendrick Lamar's Euphoria, the one that just came out,
All
and I thought
right.
this line was pretty cold. But don't tell no lies about me, and I won't tell no truths about you. So do with that as you will. Sending you out for the rest of this weekend. And folks, we love you. Like and subscribe if you got the opportunity. Share. Maybe throw us a DM. Ask us some questions, stuff you might want to hear us talk about on the podcast. We love engagement. We love talking with the people. But more than anything, folks, we hope you guys are all safe. We love you and have a great rest of your weekend. Peace.